right, this marks the first ever Culture Convo from TCSM, Transforming Culture, Shaping Minds. So I want to talk about a little bit more about why we're here. So I've been a business professor the last like 4 going on 5 years. Got my master's degree in business. Now before that, my first love was always hip hop. I've always been a part of the hip hop culture. It's always been a thing. There was hip hop, skateboarding. All of it was kind of mixed in the '90s, late '90s, early 2000s. It was kind of like this wave where it was like all the lines started to blur. Before it was like you were a rapper, or you were into rap, or you were into rock and roll, or you were into politics. Now it's kind of like everything is kind of molded. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about more cultural events and the things I think are important. So there's a couple. I'm just gonna grab this real quick. I'm always kind of fidgeting, but there's a couple. The biggest one right now is the Breakfast Club, one of my favorite podcast radio shows, because of Charlemagne the God, DJ Envy, Jess Hilarious. Their whole dynamic is always funny, entertaining. It's always off the hook. They had one of their biggest guests, the streamer Neon. So here's a little background. Radio show invites a streamer. And the biggest thing is this streamer had a past before where he was known for trolling. Now they decided, I guess they came up with a plan of like, hey, let's put his foot to the fire. Let's bring up all of this and, kind of see how he's going to defend himself in person. Now here's the biggest thing. Trolling was never really a thing, I think, until like the late 2010s, 2016, 17. It just became a thing of reaction videos and trying to test people. Because before social media, if you had a problem with someone, it was because proximity. You ran into that person. You would say it to them. You would, get that one-on-one, get that square up. Nowadays, it's kind of like people are behind these screens and they're saying whatever they want to say. Neon, I guess, was really good at that. I never paid too much attention to him, but I've seen him on my algorithm multiple times. And what I can say to his credit is he's changed himself a lot. He's nowhere near trolling. It seems like he's more on like a healing type journey or trying to better himself. So he gets on the Breakfast Club where Charlemagne is known to kind of call people out and troll people. He used to troll people a lot, kind of like Neon. Then he became an author. He started really getting into the mental health space. Now he's just a little bit different. So you get this whole back and forth, and it was really the Breakfast Club. People are saying verbally jumping Neon. Now, if you read the comments and the chats and everything, everyone basically was like, Neon did them a favor by going on their podcast. He's way more important than all of them. Now, here's a big kicker. The big kicker no one's talking about. Streamers are the new rock stars. Before, rappers and musicians were the celebrity. They were the superstar. Now you'll see them aligning themselves with streamers. You see Drake going onto these streams. You see the biggest people going onto these streams because that is the new thing. So in a way, it basically benefited the Breakfast Club more than it benefited Neon for him to show up. We saw this with the BET Awards. Kai Cenat streamed during the BET Awards, and his views were more than the actual award show themselves. So we're seeing this big shift where people are no longer looking at the celebrity, they're looking at the streamer, and the streamer is a celebrity. So for him to go to Breakfast Club was a big deal for them. Now, for them to troll him and him to handle himself so well, it basically made him look like now he's uncanceled for whatever bad stuff he did. It's kind of like he did a lot of trolling, a lot of craziness, and now he's kind of like that's gone now because he held himself so well when he was being attacked by these radio people. Big change in what I think we've seen a lot of before. And it's kind of like that's like a win for him because before, when people mess up or they try to change, they go through a whole public relations thing. They do a campaign of like, hey, I'm different. I'm donating money. I'm going to therapy. I'm doing X, Y, Z. But he had to actually do it in real time and live it. And, he could have really, went off on them and brought up their past. But he really held himself very well. So that's a dub for Neon. I'm not a part of the streamer generation. I'm a little bit older. But what I do talk with a lot of my students in college, I teach in the college campus, they all want to stream. They want to be YouTubers. That's where they're seeing this is the new economy. This is going to be important. So I see the power of it, right? We see it right now with iShowSpeed is in other countries shutting down city streets like he's Michael Jackson, like the biggest thing, and people lined up and going crazy. Now that's probably one of the biggest things. So, and I would say if you're going to leave a comment, just who was in the right, Neon or the Breakfast Club, right? Now the next topic I'm going to say right now, because I'm 40, is the Clipse album. Clipse album dropping that is produced by Pharrell. So that whole thing of coming together, that's more for my generation. That shows that I think Andre 3000 was saying that he feels too old to rap. It's a young man's game. This shows that you don't have an age limit on it, and people will wait around for quality product. for the fans to see Malice or No Malice and Pusha T get back together, that was crazy, especially when it's all produced by Pharrell. That's kind of like we've had so much microwavable food. Now, when you give us a home cooked meal, we're like, man, this is different. We didn't even know how to expect it. And for them to show up and basically put together one of their best bodies of work, I think the song Birds Don't Cry, I want to believe it is. I could be messing this up. But when I watched the background story, they recorded that in the Louis Vuitton headquarters in Paris, and all the people working there, the seamstresses and the people doing their job, were just in tears because they talked about this beautiful story of grieving the loss of their parents. One son talked about the mom, one son talked about the dad, and you know, of course, you put the John Legend singing, and the court band. It came together. It came together like a quality meal, and I love their tagline. They keep saying, you know, this is culturally inappropriate. It's crazy that they made, in a generation that likes McDonald's, they were able to make a gourmet meal. And I don't mean no shade to McDonald's. I mean just the fastness of everything. Albums dropping all the time. Now they did, Pusha did take some shots at Travis Scott, and there was a little back and forth. That's another part of the culture because hip hop is competitive. But what I can say for my generation is, again, a lot of my generation was not, it's more direct. It's not really trolling. It's not really subliminal. It's really direct. So I think that's what we got out of the Clipse album. I think it was definitely a great body of work. I want to say it's my favorite from them. I do think Lord Willin changed a lot of the culture of rap because they had grinded in that beat that was just so crazy and confusing, and it had so many different things going on. It was like Pharrell and the Neptunes, because Chad was there too. They put together this thing that was just crazy. And I think for the Clipse, it's funny because they're like the opposite of what's like popular. They're not young. They're not taking their shirt off showing muscles and a bunch of tattoos. They're very mysterious. They're very much, there's a mystique about them. They're not in the public in your face. So for them to come back after all this time and deliver something like that, it was a rollout that only they could have done in a generation that doesn't know how to understand that, right? So it's funny, in today's culture, we're having two big things happen. We're having something from the older generation with this classic album coming out, and something from the younger generation with streamers basically becoming the next leader in the entertainment space, the next big thing. So I think it's dope. So this is just kind of the first little touch on the cultural combo. So I'm going to drop them maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks. I'm not too sure. We're going to see how the culture goes. But I want to get back to talking more about the things I love, like outside of my teaching. I've done a lot of self-help, and I definitely love the mental health space, but also I want to talk about the culture and the things that are happening with the hip-hop world and the world we live in, because now hip-hop is culture. Hip-hop is the number one culture. It's you know, the influence of the streets is everywhere, right? So I hope it was enjoyable. Drop a comment if so.